Welcome to another lesson. In this lesson, we'll be talking about methods when working with objects in JavaScript. Don't forget that in JavaScript, there are functions, there are methods, there are variable and some other things like that. And the first time we came across this concept of method was when we were talking about string, where we started showing different method of working with string, and then we talked about it also when we were talking about numbers in JavaScript. So these methods are just something that perform a particular you can use to perform a particular actions in your code. So in this particular video lesson, we are going to be looking at methods that can be used with objects in JavaScript and how those methods can be called, how they can be defined in order to use them in your JavaScript object. Object method are actions that can be performed on objects. So when you hear object method, it's not any big deal other than the fact that you use them to perform actions on objects. So beyond the basics of saying you are using the dot notation to access object property, or you just add properties to objects, beyond that basis, you can also use object method in order to perform other actions on your object. A method is a function definition stored as a property value. If you pay close attention to this, you should understand what this means in an instant. A method is a function definition, which means that when we talked about method, it is a function definition, which means that it's something related to function, which means that you need to define a function and then it will now be stored as a property value. The normal way we store key value pairs as the properties of our object, in that same way is how you store method in JavaScript. So a function definition stored as a property value. And you are going to be seeing what that means in the examples that will be demonstrated as we continue. So let me just quickly clean this up so that we can make a refreshed object, and I will use person in this instance. So I will give it first name, last name, then I can just give it maybe an ID of 23 or whatever, like this. And then inside it, I can now add a method. Don't forget, they said the method is a function declaration, which means that I will need to, I can declare a function as then assign as a property value, which means that this function declaration that I want to do, I can just assign it as a property value. And don't forget that every property in JavaScript objects requires key as the first thing, and then the value, a key and the corresponding value. So in order to add it, if I want to add a method as a function declaration as in a property value mode, that is, I add it as a key value pair, which means that I may need to just make a first variable and then now assign that value to it, as you will see shortly. So I can then make my value declaration this way, and just like the normal way we used to make value in JavaScript. I omitted the command, that was why I was getting that list quickly. And then anything I want to perform, I can then put it inside this curly brace. So I can just return my first name, then put space, and then last name. I know you might be confused about this keyword that you are seeing, but don't worry, we'll talk about it shortly. And then I can output my value by passing my object person dot full name. And now on my screen, you can see Clark Kent. Now, this keyword that you are seeing, I'm referring to this. It means that the first name property of person. This is a way to access property in object in JavaScript. So this is a keyword. This thing that you are saying is a keyword in JavaScript. This. So it's referring to this same object that we have here. And by putting it inside this function call, it's now referring to the first property of the object that we have here. So the first property of the person object is what this is referring to, which is first name, and this one is referring to the last name property of the person object, as you can see. So, and you can see that we are accessing that object method by calling this, which is the property of this function declaration here, with this bracket that you can see is in front of this key, which is the full name. And don't forget that if you remember back there when we were talking about function, when you want to call function, you call function with this bracket and then you put whatever value, if it is a function that requires value inside it. Because if you try to call it the other way around this way without this bracket, you are going to get something different. And you can see that what you are getting is the function itself. So it is not executing as a function. Do you understand? And you will see that I am getting that function code, that declaration itself, instead of the output. So don't forget that this bracket should not be omitted when you are trying to call a function this way in an object. So when you are working with methods and objects, so don't forget this, because without this, you throw an error and instead return the function instead of the output that matches it. So this is how you add object method in JavaScript. So I also want to show us another example which might be something that will really help us to understand this deeply. So I'm still going to use this example that we have here. And this time I am going to take this out. And outside of it, I'll just say the name of my object. Then I'll pass that function to it. And what is that function? I'll just use what we have the other time, this dot first name space this dot last name. And you should take a look at, okay, I need to change this from full name to name, because this is my function name. As you can see, it is name and it is not full name like we had it the other time. Is this not showing? Is there anything? And now you can see Clark Kent. So you can see that it is working like the initial example I used. So this is how you add object method in JavaScript. When working with objects and you want to add method, you can do it inside the object or outside the object by using the this keyword to refer to the property that you want to access from your object. Thank you.